Devaya. So, continuing, just a little recap. We read a couple of verses from the Bhagavad Gita that one must deliver themselves with the help of the mind and not degrade oneself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and its enemy as well. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, the mind will remain the greatest enemy. That's really a startling idea, that an uncontrolled and unbridled mind is in fact, not can be, is in fact your greatest enemy. Why? Why greatest enemy? Because the tendency of the mind, being influenced by these subtle material forces, is to bring you, to get you to act and do things that will not liberate you but bind you to a perpetual cycle of great unhappiness. Sometimes okay, there are some ups, it's not all downs, but the ups and downs are both of a similar nature. And in another verse I'll just read before we get into the recap, for one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But one whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion, says Lord Sri Krishna. So, the foundational, of course, understanding is you are an eternal spiritual being. This body is not who you are. It's somewhere where you're temporarily residing. It is going to go through a natural cycle of being born, developing, reaching maturity, and then degrading. That is unavoidable. If you identify with that body, if you seek to be lovable, beautiful, or desirable, or any of those kind of things based upon the body, that is a formula for unhappiness. It cannot end any other way. It can't end any other way. I remember years ago reading an article about Liz Taylor. You still remember who that is? The old guys do. Liz Taylor, who's Liz Taylor? So, I mean, she was reputedly, according to all the magazines and everything, the most beautiful woman in the world. And of course, as the body ages, once you've become so invested in the garment as being you, and that's how you present to the world, and you just are giddy with excitement when people admire you and look at you with eyes of desire. It's just like, hello. That, I tell you, that's a real freaky one. But Anyway, that'll be a major tangent, that one. And this is the way you used to relating to things. You measure your self-worth based upon how people are admiring the body that you're wearing around. As soon as that thing starts heading south, everything, the eye bags, right? All the skin starts sagging. The titties head for the floor. Sorry, I'm rather a crude dude. Unless you're into plastic. And then you're just walking around in this anxiety if anything's going to go wrong with that one. And, everything just starts heading south. And then it's kind of like, then people start noticing. They start noticing all the stuff going on. And then you start feeling terribly insecure. And it gets to the point where she could not go out in public because she wanted to try and maintain that old image and have people speak about her associated with that old. So she couldn't even go outside. She couldn't go out in the public, even though she desired the admiration and attention of others. I mean, what kind of hell is that? That's hell. That's hell. That's not fun. No matter what happened before, it doesn't make any difference to where you are right now and where everything is going. You have the living being is covered by two garments, the gross physical body and a subtle body that's comprised primarily of the mind. Your body displays symptoms of life because you are in proximity to it. You are wearing it. As soon as you leave, the real nature of the body manifests. And this is something that a lot of people will have difficulty understanding. The mind is the same thing. The mind is a form of material energy. And because of the proximity of the soul, the living being, to the mind appears to be like alive and independent and active. The yogis would spend a lot of time on this kind of stuff. And their body and their mind was like a laboratory. And they spent day and night experimenting in this laboratory, observing how everything works and how it's all going on, as part of a quest to come to discover their actual self. One of the big problems, I'll just read you something. No, this will get too technical. Well, I'll read you this one. The pure and transcendental consciousness of the self, or the Atma, is unchangeable. When the mind receives the reflection of that consciousness, it is able to perceive, the mind is able to perceive, and it appears just like the seer. So, material existence means that we live our life in this monumental illusion. The monumental illusion is the body is me. It is the illusion that this world is my home. I can actually make a home here. No, you can't. You are passing through. That I can find perfect happiness and fulfillment through the material world, material relationships. No, you can't. And I know wife was telling me perhaps somebody didn't fully appreciate when I was talking about the desire to live happily ever after. And I said there's no such thing in relation to the material world. And then when I flowed that over and talking about relationships and marriages, and, not all marriages crap out, of course not. And the desirable situations for them not to. But even if you have the most perfect relationship and you are deeply attached and immersed in affection, when you die or that person dies, and they will, the amount of pain that you will experience is greater than anything else that you will experience in your life. And so while you had a really nice journey, whoa, lovey-dovey, holding hands, everything, when I make another material personality my shelter, when I take shelter in them, expecting that permanence, expecting that perfect love, I'm sorry, you will become unhappy. Because you're looking for that which is eternal in the realm of that which is temporary. The nature of the material world, it is temporary. And seeking permanence there is a formula for unhappiness. Moving to the mind. I mentioned yesterday that in a heightened state of emotion, we should actually learn not to speak, not to act, not to make a decision on anything. That the necessity to do things and the time when you're calm and everything is on an even keel gives you the opportunity for making better choices that produce good outcomes. I use the example in some of the things we run, like in the prisons, of anger as in relation to a heightened state of emotions. Anger is the crappiest thing around. It has two sidekicks. There are three things that are described in the ancient texts as being gateways to hell. I mean, visualize that for a second before we talk about it. It's like you got a door, that's the gateway. You step outside, and that's it. It's a crap sandwich, big time. And everything that, all misfortune and unhappiness, a hellish experience. The three gateways to hell are anger, lust, and lust here doesn't mean just sexual lust. It's all forms of intense self-centeredness. Anger, lust, and greed are described as gateways to hell. So let's visit one of them, the anger thing. Has anybody ever... why do people normally manifest anger? I mean, just in broad terms. Because there's usually something that they are unhappy about. And it often concerns another person, or it can concern a situation. And you don't want it to be like that, and you want it to change. Isn't that normally what the anger thing is pretty much about? Whose life has become better and whose problems have become solved by manifesting anger? Anybody? I mean, do you know anybody? where anger has actually solved all their problems? Actually, just the opposite happens. When you manifest anger, everything becomes worse. Right? I mean, you got to figure that one out. If you're not convinced of that, you've got a problem. And you need to figure that one out. But we become deeply conditioned by anger as this go-to. It's our go-to to, stop it! How many times? When I speak of anger, and we need to be clear about this, we're talking about an emotion, not just being firm or even somewhat assertive, but anger when you begin to lose control of your mouth, particularly your mouth, and worse, when it becomes physical, when you start, inflicting threats of violence or actual violence. When a person becomes angry, you will always end up saying things that you should not have, that don't make your life better, that don't make anybody else's life better. And we begin this cycle where anger feeds more anger. And then soon this becomes the go-to. One of the things that always has fascinated me with, human nature, and when I say human nature, I'm not talking about the nature of the soul. I'm talking about the nature of the body and the mind and everything that comes with that. We're just like really dumb. When people, develop these patterns of arguments, of raising their voice or becoming really aggressive and speaking about something, people usually, in relationships, they carry around all this stuff that they didn't like, that the other person did. They didn't like that, and they didn't like this, and it's just kind of like gets stored there. And then as soon as an argument comes, you take all this crap from the past. Oh, what about the time with you? Yeah, what about you do that too? And, we start now hurling arrows in the form of things from the past. And it's like, what are you thinking? Do you really think that in this heightened state of emotion that you are going to be able to have an intelligent conversation, that you are going to be able to actually communicate two ways, address some things that perhaps need addressing? We don't do it when everything is calm and going on okay and everything's nice. We won't say it. It's just back there waiting for an eruption. And as soon as there's an eruption, we vomit all this stuff about what we don't like about someone or what they did or what happened in the past. This is so incredibly unintelligent. This is just like as dumb as you can get. I mean, you really think that in this state you're going to be able to solve anything? Now that other person, they get all defensive and they get hurt by things that are said, and it just, and things escalate. And then even when you disengage, everybody walks away with even more baggage about things that they don't like. And it's just like, whoa. And it can become so bad, people just really purposefully and consciously say the most hurtful thing they can just to stick it to the other person or inflict some form of violence or other. And it's like the world is immersed Yeah.
What causes anger? Why are some people like it's so easy to anger?
This is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita. There is this understanding amongst yogis that another person does not make you angry. That anger is already residing within your heart, and somebody has just touched it, and then whatever is there erupts. And so you can see different people can experience exactly the same situation, but they manifest different types of reactions based upon their own consciousness, their own state of consciousness. So the process is this. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, who is a great warrior prince, was questioning Arjuna while standing on a battlefield getting ready for a monumental war. And partway through the conversation, he asked this question: what is it that impels a person, even against their own will, to engage in sinful or degraded or hurtful activity? What is that force? And Krishna's response was that it is, and the closest English thing we've got is lust. In Sanskrit, this is called kama. And it fundamentally speaks to all forms of material desire or hankering that's about me, the self-centeredness. So he said it is lust only, O Arjuna, that is the all-devouring enemy of mankind. And then he later goes on to explain that there is a process by which this happens. First, by the contemplation of the sense objects. Okay, we have 5 external senses, right? The sense of sight, of smelling, touch, taste, feel. That's it. These are the 5 knowledge, what's called knowledge acquiring senses. In the yoga system, the mind is considered a 6th sense because it is the repository of all the inflow of information. Spurred by an emptiness and a desire to fill up an empty space, we are constantly searching and looking for something or some things that will fill up that empty space. And we look at different types of sense objects, and we always categorize them as desirable or undesirable. I really like that. I don't like that. I really, really like that. I hate that. And in this formula, it's all about me. I am at the center of everything. We don't understand and appreciate the degree to which we are deeply self-centered. It took me a long time when I started, studying this stuff to sort of come to an understanding about how incredibly selfish we are. Our entire life is all about what I like. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, I really want to do that. It's like, who the hell are you? Really, in the big picture, I treat myself or my false concept of myself as if I was the center of the universe. I see everything in relation to me. So just be aware of that. We're not going to deal with that. So I'm always looking around for sensual stimulation, things that will bring me happiness or help me to avoid distress. I am always then contemplating on these things. By contemplation of the sense objects, one develops attachment. So this is an ancient knowledge that has now been completely taken over by advertisers. With the birth of the consumer economic system, the main driver of the economic system is envy and greed. To be envious of what others have and to be greedy for more. Things that were in ancient times, like 50 years ago, considered part of the 7 deadly sins. So advertisers know this. The fundamental principle of advertising, everybody is empty and everybody's looking for something to fill up the emptiness. I have to associate a product or an experience with the possibility of filling up that emptiness. And let me dangle it in front of you and tell you, woo, this will fill up the empty space. This will fill it up. This will do it. And then you start thinking about it and you think about it. And then before you know, you have a change of behavior. That's called being a consumer. You go and buy something that you actually never thought of before, or never wanted, or never needed, because it was shown to you. So these guys have really captured this principle of the Bhagavad Gita. By contemplation on the sense objects, one develops attachment. You get an attachment for it, and then you want it. And then there's a whole science about the anxieties attached to that. These guys sitting around in caves figured all this stuff out. Well, part of it was through a process of descending or revealed knowledge also. Anyway, side one. By contemplating the objects and senses, one develops attachment. From attachment comes lust, a growing and more intense desire. And that intense desire makes it so people will then seek to find a way to fulfill that wish. By contemplating on the objects of the senses, one develops attachment. From attachment comes lust. And from lust comes anger. What's the connection? It's either going to be one of two things. Either I really got fixated on something, whether it's a relationship, a person, an experience, an object, food, whatever. I was really into this was going to satisfy me. And I am able to either acquire that experience, have that experience, and then I find that it's not fulfilling. It stimulates me for a while, and then it's gone. But then my desire for it tends to increase. You've heard of putting gasoline on the fire? Engaging in the activity, engaging the senses, stimulates them, and then the fire grows hotter. And the more intensely I pursue it, the more I experience a lack of fulfillment from it. Or, on the other side, I get so fixated and I think, if I just have this, it's going to be everything. It's going to make me happy. It's going to fulfill me. This person is the object of my life. If I could just love them, I'd be so happy. And then I can't get it. And then I get pissed off. So either through the actual acquisition of an experience or whatever, or the failure, both will produce anger. And the more a person is inwardly, selfishly focused, self-centered in their focus, and the more they aggressively pursue desire, and the more they are fanning the flames of desire, the more a person will automatically experience anger residing within the heart. It has no other cause. This is the cause. And so you get people that are by nature angry people. They're just pissed with everything, just grumpy. What, you looking at me? Yeah. In Filipino, there's a galit sa mundo. It means just like you're angry at the world. So when, the more people pursue this, like relationships, you cannot have hot relationships without a corresponding anger component. And it's kind of like, what? Like in the movie world, people really promote, excessive focus on sexual activity without understanding. And they're so against violence in the movies. Hey, you can't have one without the other. Just look at relationships. The more hot, the more sexual our relationships, you will see, it may take a little while to manifest, but when it does, watch out. You get these extremes of these hellish fighting, screaming, and then the great make-up sex. Sorry if I'm being a bit crude, but, we're getting down and dirty here. This is the reality of things. So anger, and when the more a person feels anger, it always comes from, a person might analyze it and think, because I'm so dissatisfied, I'm so unhappy. Well, why are you so dissatisfied and why are you so unhappy? It's because you're thinking and contemplating about all this stuff that you think will make your life perfect and happy, and you're feeling frustrated that you can't get it. If you really analyze it, it boils down to this very, very simple thing. When we are consumed, then, by anger, it always is going to produce bad outcomes. It never produces good outcomes. And yet, our tendency is for us to develop a habit of it as being a go-to in different situations. So, what I advise people to do, anytime, and I'm talking about in relationships here, whether it's, partners in life or whether it's parents with children, and, there's so many challenging things that you have to deal with. You got to learn to get over and drop the anger thing, because it doesn't really solve anything. Anytime that you feel threatened, and it can be with fear, it can be with lots of different things. And I know it's complicated, and some people may think I'm oversimplifying, and it's not. This is foundational. I haven't just done stuff, for instance, in the prisons. We deal with, in some shelters or trusts that run programs for people that are, being subjected to domestic violence or sexual violence. And, people that are really broken from different situations. These things that I'm talking about will help everybody in their life. Anytime there is some sort of increase of emotion, shut your mouth. Don't say anything. Bad time to talk. Don't make a decision. That's it. How many times in anger do people make a commitment to something and then, a day or two or a week or 2 weeks later, it's, yeah, okay, I'm sorry, But damage has already been done. You can't erase the damage that's been done. It's been done. So close the mouth. Don't talk. Don't make a decision. That's it. I've had enough. No. Calm down. Don't take action during this phase. Step away. If the person's going at it and really wanting to engage, you ask them, please, I need to take a time out. I cannot manage. I want to be clear. I want to be helpful. I want to find a way forward. So I need to step away. You don't ask them to do it. They can do whatever they want. Me, I need to step away from this. I need to calm down. I need to think about it a little bit so that I can respond to you appropriately. And then I walk away. And maybe I do a bit of pranayama. If I have a japa practice, or I like kirtan, I put something on and I go for a walk, or I go in my room, and I just really consciously just lower my heart rate and my breathing, and I absorb my mind in that which is transcendental and that which is spiritual. And it will begin to lift the haze, the cloud. And then, when everything is calmed down, I have to think about, well, how am I going to react now? How am I going to deal with this? How should I respond to this person? What is in my best interest and in their best interest?
Is anger housed in the mind, or is it some kind of cellular thing?
It's usually in the toenails. No. They speak of it as being, residing within the heart, which fundamentally means almost at the core of yourself, but not of your spiritual self. This is something that's only occurring within the gross and subtle bodies. The soul itself doesn't experience this. And then you're going like, what do you mean the soul doesn't experience it? It's like this. When a person is sitting in a movie house watching a movie, if the movie is particularly intense, you might have all different kinds of emotional responses. You might cry. You might become very excited. You might become sexually stimulated. You might feel, great hope about things. You may be swept away with a desire, if only I had a relationship like... You can have all kinds. Somebody can suddenly do something and you physically respond, with a gasp, or some people scream, or, I've read from before, I can remember a couple of times reading about people dying in a movie house. They're not doing anything. They're sitting in a chair. Lighten up. You're just sitting in a chair. Nothing is happening to you. But you have become so engaged with the screen, it's like it's happening to you. And your body physiologically reacts. Psychologically, it reacts. And what's going on? Nothing. You're sitting in a chair. And there's a thing up there. In the old days, it used to be celluloid. Now it's all digital. With the celluloid thing, it was kind of like, you've got like frames. If you get one frame and you look at it, it's like nothing going on. But when it's moving quickly, it creates the illusion that there is movement. And the light that shines through this picks up different colors, and different kind of colors are projected onto a highly reflective material, which bounces back through your eye, goes to the visual cortex, and stimulates some electrical reaction in the brain. That's what's happening. You're not in danger. You're not actually experience anything real. It's just all an illusion of sound, audio waves and light waves. And yet I'm sitting there like it's really happening to me, and I'm reacting to it. This example is probably the best example to use in terms of how the living being sits within the heart and becomes affected by everything that's going on in the body and mind, and assumes that this is all actually happening to me. But this is another big subject. We need, as much as possible, to live a very conscious, a kind life, a life that is not overly absorbed in self-centeredness and greediness for more, and always trying to stimulate and excite the senses. Because, that can be fun, and we can get a rush from it, but it doesn't fulfill you. You do not become fulfilled. You can be subjecting your body and mind to endless stimulation and be feeling suicidal. Russell Brand was so good on that.
While being in this material body and so much stimulated for everything around us, is there a way to overcome desires, like all sorts of?
Okay, we'll get to that in a second. If I don't, I'm looking at it. It'll probably be later. You want to ask me when I sit down later tonight? Because it's dealing with a solution. Thank you very much. Russell Brand, he developed massive addiction to alcohol and other forms of intoxicants. And that guy's really smart. I mean, he's really smart, both materially, but also from a more spiritual perspective. And he's trying to analyze what the hell's going on with me. He said, I loved alcohol. He was just drinking vast amounts of it. He loved cocaine, just blasting as often as he could. Other assorted forms of intoxication. Being famous and having money, he says, and I won't use the crude word, but more or less sex was available on demand. Everybody was pretty much willing to give him whatever he wanted. And so he said he was living a life of excess, of just absorption in all of this stuff. But inside, he felt suicidal. He was so desperately unhappy. But you've got fame, you've got reasonably good looks, you got fame, you've got a physical appearance that sort of does it for some people. You've got money. You've got access to constant sensual gratification, stimulating the senses and gratifying them. Why the hell are you so unhappy? Isn't this the perfection of life? You are unhappy because none of those experiences touches you in the core of your being. It's just happening to the body. There is no connection with physical pleasure and happiness. They're two different things. I'm talking about spiritual happiness, fulfillment, satisfaction. Sensual activity does not satisfy you. You may reach some culmination of the experience, and then you're, that was amazing, but it doesn't fulfill you. It just stimulates the urge and desire for more of the same. And then you fulfill that, and then afterwards, now your appetite is increasing. It's gasoline on the fire. And we live in this monumental illusion that if I can just a bit of hot sauce, a squeeze of lime, I just got to spice it up enough. I got to turn up the volume. I got to be a bit more kinky, a bit more outrageous, a bit more far out. Then it's going to become a better experience. No, it doesn't become better. And you are now heading on this trajectory of unhappiness. And this, I was talking to Melanie. I've had this amazing life. It's like, I don't know how it happened. I mean, I went from being a monk, walking on the streets, traveling to holy places and subsisting by begging and sleeping under a different tree at nighttime, that kind of life. And for a while I was working with one of the biggest jewelers in the world. They used to fly around the world in private jets, rock into some queen. The biggest load I had was like $162 million worth of jewelry to show a queen, $18 million necklaces. And I got exposed to this bubble of extreme wealth and extreme power. And it's mind-blowing, the amount of alcohol and drug, either illegal or prescription drug, usage within this group of people, this tremendous unhappiness that exists in the core of people's being. And you see it with all the big movie stars and everything. Everybody wants to put on the brave face. But I tell you, you go down that road of being able to fulfill all of your fantasies, you do not become happier. Because you have not done anything for you. You've stimulated the body, you've stimulated the mind, but neither of those are you. So the need to be more mindful, the need not to be feeding desires and the mind and becoming hungrier to consume. I mean, what the hell? Look at the world that we live in. What's the guy's name? I can't remember. The guy that owns Google, the big guy. I mean, he was talking about, the absolute need for space exploration. We need to find places that we can colonize because we are creating such a mess on this planet that we have to be able to go somewhere else. Hey, what? And then you're going to take your habits with you? They haven't twigged that the problem is an overconsumption, and yet nobody wants to dial it back. Everybody on the extinction, demos have still got their cell phones, still buying up all the stuff that's cool, still being told what's cool and what they should be using and consuming. Nobody wants to dial back their personal life. Oh yeah, I recycle. Like that's really going to do it. You really think that? Oh, we need alternate energy. No, you don't need alternate energy. You need to consume less. That's too hard. Because I'm associating my constant consumption, the stimulation of my mind and senses with happiness. No, that's not happiness. You can have fulfillment of desire, but that does not make you happy. On the other hand, you can live a life of tremendous austerity. You think of the great saintly personalities, the great transcendentalists and yogis who lived on almost nothing, who endured incredible austerity that to us is like, that's too hard. And yet inside they were just over-flooded with transcendental happiness, over-flooded with this experience. So, message for the morning. You do need to get a grip. You do need to be less influenced by emotions and begin to learn how to think with more clarity. If you are constantly stimulating and cultivating desire, you can never experience peace. It's impossible. Impossible. If you are focused on the stimulation of desire and the constant feeding of the appetites in the mind, your life will be fundamentally unhappy, and the end of it will be disastrous. I promise you, it will be disastrous. If you want to find peace and happiness, the need to be more in control of your mind is of topmost importance. This process that we are engaged in, this meditation, is so extraordinary. In this particular age in which we live, it's categorized in the Vedas as the age of Kali. This is considered like the Stone Age or the Iron Age. It's like crap. We may have amazing technological developments, but people are becoming more animal-like, more uncontrolled, more dissatisfied. The rise of mental illness points to what's the fruit of this way that we are choosing to live. In fact, we're not even making choices anymore. We've given up. We've just surrendered to the phone. And whatever's been fed to us, that's it. And what I'm trying to encourage you is that there is another way to live. You don't have to make massive and monumental changes right away. Incremental. And it begins with not responding or feeling that you have to respond to whatever is going on in your mind. You don't have to. You can step away from it and try to calm down, and in a dispassionate way try to consider what's really in your best interest, you, the spiritual being, and that other entity that you're engaging with, or other beings that you're engaging with, or even with the world. This process of chanting, even without conscious effort, brings a purification. It brings a gradual lifting of the mist and an ability to see things with more clarity. And it empowers you to begin to step back and not feel that you have to just impulsively follow the mind wherever it's going. With that, I am done for the morning. We could go on for a lot longer, but is this interesting? And I promise you that this is all achievable. Spiritual life is a process of uncovering what is already there. You are an eternal spiritual being. You have a spiritual nature. You know what is spiritual happiness, but having everything becoming clouded, and I've become so obsessed with the outer garment, living like that's the only reality. That's a problem. Any question? Go for it.
Important, because I've not actually thought about that. I just got the word of it. You used the word dispassionate, which I don't think I've ever even really heard or used that word.
Dispassionate.
It's quite funny because quite often I always used to view passion like it was like, I need that.
You need that like you need a hole in the head, as they used to say. Yeah. Okay. We will talk. Give me a reminder when I sit down, that one first and then that one second later, because it is important. Yeah.
As a person with very small children,
Yeah.
when you talked about anger, I actually was sitting here thinking about my 2-year-old looking at her sister with venom in her face saying, "You're not coming to my birthday party." So that's the worst thing you can say in the world.
Yeah.
The most hateful thing at 2 that you can throw out there. But it's very much like they're still in that animal instinct. At what age can they come out of their limbo? Practice these things.
Yeah.
Say, no, your sister didn't make you angry. You chose to be angry. It's your choice. Don't give your power away. But she's looking at that.
Yeah.
You know?
It's similar kind of thing. I mean, as a parent, you so much need patience, and there has to be the long-term view. You know, this time will all pass, and perhaps you could try letting them calm down first, trying to address them, apart from putting a stop to a behavior. No, you are not going to do that. If you do that, there will be consequences, whatever that's going to be. Allow them to calm down. And when they're actually, it doesn't have to be right away, it could be the next day or the day after. When they're in a happier mood, and and this will tie into what we talk about, how we become influenced by these invisible forces and energies, the mode of passion, the mode of goodness, and the mode of ignorance. So when they're in that state, they're just overwhelmed by this, state of being. You got to let them calm down, and when they're in a good place, you talk to them. I know they did something that you didn't like. I know it, but do you really want to be mean like that? I mean, if somebody was mean like that to you, how would you feel? Who's your best friend? Who's your best friend? If they said that to you, how would you feel? And the idea of being able to try and create a bigger picture than just me, that self-centeredness is just like so intense, and being able to feel empathy and identify with other people's unhappiness is like, that's so good for us. So trying to get them into that space, and that's going to be a long, slow process, but just something you have to constantly work at. Might take a few years. And even when they get the message, it doesn't inspire necessarily a change of character. And there are other things that need to be done in concert with that. So really bad stuff, you need to stop right away, not let it continue. And let kids need to experience. For me, the biggest thing I had to teach my kids from the time they popped out wasn't really a pop, was it? I got to deliver some of my kids. It was pretty cool. So, biggest thing they have to learn really fast, you are not the center of the universe. What? You are not. And yes, you may have wants and even needs, but sometimes you're going to have to stand in line because there are other things that need to be taken care of. We will get to you, I promise, but, You're going to have to stand in line. This learning that you're not the center of the universe is just like so wonderful. It's so liberating. And this is what's crap with social media. It's utterly pushing this idea that you are the center of the universe. There is nothing more destructive for people than that concept and idea.
One last one, sorry.
Okay, no, I'm worried about that. I'm looking at the time. I love this stuff. I can go on all day and night, but it's but maybe not them.
So going back to desires and emotions, what I'm understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, as there are conditions of being in this material reality. So it's more a fact of knowing how to respond instead of how to avoid. Right?
How to
avoid them.
Yeah. You can't avoid.
Okay.
You can't avoid. The thing is how you're going to deal with it, and how you are going to determine how it affects you. You have control over that. You have a special faculty. We all have it. It's called buddhi, which means like spiritual intelligence. Like when you're really going crazy, or doing something that you shouldn't be doing, you know it, and that little voice that goes, not a good idea, don't do it, and you do it anyway. But that faculty, we all have, and the yogis really aspired to develop and cultivate and pay more attention to that faculty, because it is a faculty by which you can control the mind. Thank you very much. Haribol. Thank you. Kunz, pakilipat layan na konti. Haribol, nitai go, Haribol, nitai go. Nitai Gaura Haribo, Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, Haribo, Nitai Gaura. Haribo, Haribo, nitai go, Haribo, Haribo, nitai go, Haribo, Haribo, nitai go, Haribo, nitai go, Haribo, 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 nitai go, Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaura, Haribo, Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaura, Haribo, Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Haribo, Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Haribo, Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Haribo, Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur, Haribo, Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Haribo, Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana, 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 La Govinda Rama Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama Madana
Samadana Mohana